Students taking AP English must learn to embrace the complexity of their assigned readings. They must be willing to grapple with the complex issues, characters, and situations presented in their novels. However, critical thought presents its challenges, and students will often turn to study aids like Spark or Cliff Notes in hopes of finding an easy answer. And while easy answers are really nice, they're just that, easy answers. Study aids like Sparks or Cliff Notes only offer superficial readings of the novel. They really don't dig to a deeper and more complex level. Don't believe me? Well, let's do a little experiment. Let's pick a character from Crime and Punishment, Raskolnikov, for example, and see what Spark or Cliff Notes has to offer on that character. Before we go to the actual sources, let's take a minute to watch this BBC video clip to remind ourselves of just what a complex character Raskolnikov really is.
In order to create new ones. Great men are not afraid to be criminals.
What kind of man really believes that he can transgress society's laws, that he's superior to moral and civil codes that guide all of the rest of us? That makes Raskolnikov a character worth a little closer study. Okay, well, let's take a look at Raskolnikov from the point of view of the people over at Sparks Notes. I'm going to the section called Character Analysis. You no doubt know where that is. And I'm looking at what they have to offer. There's a lot of information. And as I scroll down, I see some impressive sounding words. Transgressor, malcontent, schismatic. That all sounds pretty lofty and intellectual, but I really wonder how much help it is. I don't see anything about why these particular characteristics are important. Okay. Well, maybe Cliff's Notes will offer us more help. We'll go there next. Okay, I googled on over to Cliff's Notes, just like you guys would probably do, and I found a corresponding section, something like Character Analysis, and I took a look at what they had to say about Raskolnikov. In comparison to what I found in Spark Notes, there's a little more detail, there's some specific plot references, but I still don't see anything that addresses those big questions. You guys know them all so well. So what? Who cares? Why is this important? Those are the questions that we have to answer. A more desperate student might turn to Wikipedia. You know, there are wikis for just about everything under the sun. Surely we can find something on Crime and Punishment. Yep, there it is, Crime and Punishment. And looking more closely, here's a section on Raskolnikov. Wow, there are only 9 lines. 9 lines on one of literature's most mysterious characters. Gosh, that's not very much help either. Spark Notes, Cliff Notes, Wikipedia, Pink Monkey, Book Rag, Novel Guides, even CheatEssays.com all offer superficial readings of the novel. They just comment on what the average Joe should already know about the novel. Some of you are likely saying to yourselves, but you know what? I didn't know some of those things before. I didn't know about him being a transgressor or a malcontent, or at least I hadn't thought of it in that way. Well, it is nice that these study aids help us to see the basics of the story. But again, in AP English, we have to move beyond the basics. So what is a hard-working, earnest, tried and true AP student to do when they need help with these complex novels? Well, there are better sources to turn to for help with interpretation. It won't surprise you that I'm going to suggest that you stay far away from Google. You know, when you Google something, you never know what you might come up with. You really don't know about the credibility of the sources, who the authors are, how much education they have. Let's try to stay away from those. Instead, when you need some help, let's go to the library resources page. What you'll see next are a couple of screenshots reminding you how to use the library resources page, especially in relation to crime and punishment. Okay, so here I am at the home page for the Library Resource Center. From there I'm going to go to EBSCO, and from EBSCO I'm going to go to the Literary Resource Center. I'm going to type in crime and punishment and just see what comes up. Okay, there are tons of hits. I'm going to narrow my search down a little bit. I'm going to click on the tab here at the top that says Literary Criticisms and see what comes up then. Okay, this is much better. The list has been narrowed considerably. It's limited to literature. And looking down the list of sources, I see one name reappearing. Harold Bloom, Harold Bloom, Harold Bloom. Harold Bloom is one of the premier literary critics of our time, so I would think that anything that he would put his name to, either literally or by extension, would be a pretty good resource. This one, called Character Profiles, catches my eye. You know, we've been talking about Raskolnikov and what motivates him, so maybe it'll offer us some insight. Let's take a closer look. Oh, great, just as I'd hoped. This piece of criticism deals with some of the same topics we've read about before, Raskolnikov's divided nature. However, if you look more closely, it goes on to link Raskolnikov's divided nature to the different characters in the novel. This piece of criticism goes on to suggest that Dostoevsky created Raskolnikov and all the different characters intentionally as foils for each other. Dunya, Sonia, Svidrigailov, all of them have a purpose in relationship to Raskolnikov and his schismatic personality. Now that's a resource worth reading. It works to answer some of those big questions. So what? Who cares? Why is this important? This piece, called Character Profile, helps to answer some of those questions. So now that you know where some quality resources can be found, here's your assignment. First, go back to SparkNotes, CliffsNotes, Wikipedia, whatever resource you consulted, and find a topic that is treated only superficially. Whoever or whatever interests you, intrigues you, causes you questions or consternation, go and look for some more information about that. Be it the pawnbroker, the use of the color yellow, Raskolnikov's dream about the horse, whatever it is that you'd like to know more about, go look for answers to that question in criticism. You know, perhaps the word answer is inappropriate. Perhaps I ought to use the word interpretation, because as you look at different pieces of criticism, you'll see that different people have different interpretations of the same events. How do you know which one's right? Well, that's really a question for another day, but suffice it to say, none of them are exactly right. These are just all scholarly opinions. But scholarly opinions are important. They're based on a critical and complex reading and analysis of the novel. And that's exactly what we want you to begin to do. We want you to begin to develop your own scholarly opinions about these pieces that you read. And how better to start than reading the works of others. That is, reading the works of credible academians. All right, back to the assignment. You found a piece of criticism that you like. The next step is to read it closely, to understand the critic's argument. Highlight, annotate, make notes, do whatever it takes so that you understand this piece of criticism thoroughly. Once you've prepared your criticism, Bring it to class where we'll use it in 2 ways. First, for a Socratic discussion, and then second, for a timed writing. We'll be doing all of this next week, so you'd better get started now. Good luck and happy researching.